Britt and Tiff, Britt and Tiff, Britt and Tiff.
It's showtime!
Hey there, fellow flesh bags. That's Britt.
And that's Tiff.
And welcome to Quick Car Cuts, where we see a movie in the cinema.
And then talk about it in the car afterwards.
Hence,
the car. And today, we saw Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
So this is like a long time nostalgic coming for us because Beetlejuice was like our movie growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It was so weird and nostalgic to be going to see it in the cinema. And I tried my best to keep an open mind. I didn't really want to know anything going into it, especially because I didn't want other people's kind of opinions to kind of, I'm trying to think of the word.
Color it?
Exactly, to color how I felt about it. So, yeah, and we haven't even talked to each other about it yet.
Right.
We straight up said we were not going to tell each other until we were on camera. So
We went like Bob and just didn't say shit on our way out.
I love Bob so much. I was so... We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Justice for Bob. Justice for Bob. Did you like it?
Yes.
I liked it too.
I want to say this real quick because this is a thought I was having while we were in there. So, there's been a lot of media that I just grew up with that I've never questioned because I liked it so much. I've never tried to explain myself as to why I liked it. And it's been a part of pop culture forever, and it's just there. Now, this is the first time where I've had the experience of trying to put myself in someone else's shoes, seeing a movie like Beetlejuice for the first time. Because as long as I've remembered, I've always liked it. Always liked Beetlejuice. And I think it kept that same bizarre...
It was so weird in the best way. And
Yes.
I can see how some people don't like this movie because it was made for the people who have the nostalgia of the weird ass original movie that came out. And it's so fun and it's so is it perfect? No. But the original isn't perfect either. It's weird, it's kooky, it's crazy, not everything makes sense. And that's also what happens here. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say that I knew going into this that I hated since the trailer is it always bothered me that in the trailer, Lydia had the same haircut that she had when she was a teenager. And I'm like, she is now older, has had a child. Why the hell does she have the same haircut? I don't have this. Actually, I do have the same haircut as when I was. Anyway, but the point is that it makes sense for her character because her character is literally like honing in on that persona, so she wouldn't want to change. So it made sense. So the biggest issue that I had going into the movie was fixed within like the first 3 minutes. So that's perfect.
Yeah, and on the note of the characters, I felt like everyone felt true to what I imagined they would be all these years later. I feel like Lydia would be the way she was in this movie. Delia is a great extension of that character, and... Are the lights getting dimmer?
Yeah, the lights are getting dimmer, so we gotta hurry up.
Oh, boy.
We're gonna get kicked out of here.
Delia was the way I imagined she would be. The juice is still the juice. We had a lot of great character additions.
And I will say, I loved Jenna Ortega as Astrid because she wasn't a cookie cutter of what Lydia was in the first movie. She was her own person. She had her own reasons for doing the things she did. She had her own personality. But it still felt like they were part of the same family. So that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. There was really great style to the movie. You could still see that really weird sense of humor.
Let there be
the
light.
lights are
Oh
back.
my gosh.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
They still had that really weird sense of humor, the really dark sense of humor, too. And the R rating served this movie well, I
Was
think.
it R-rated? Pause, please. PG-13.
Oh, it's PG-13.
PG-13.
No, never mind then.
So that makes sense, though, why they bleeped the second F-bomb.
I still...
Because they're only allowed one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie.
I still think that was for style points. Because Beetlejuice did break the fourth wall a few times. And they certainly wouldn't have to have an F-bomb in the movie if they didn't want one. So that bleep was definitely for comic effect.
Oh, totally. They had crazy, and I will say too, like, people I can see criticizing this movie as, well, it had the overhead scenes in the first one, so it has overhead scene in this one. They had a crazy possessed dance scene in this one, so they had a crazy possessed, but it works. It works really well, and it has that nostalgic value. And if you liked the first one, I think you would really like this one. It's fantastic.
The style is there. It's what you'd want Beetlejuice to be. Even if not stop motion, the appearance of stop motion animation segments, which was really good. I'll have to look into that. So fun. The characters it's so good to see them back. And yeah, I agree. Jenna Ortega's a really good addition as Astrid.
Do you want to say anything else before we get into spoiler territory?
Well, do we give our ratings before we get into...
After.
We do after.
It's
okay.
the very end.
So, yeah, this is kind of spoiler territory from here on out. If you'd like to skip ahead to our final thoughts and our ratings, hit that time code. But this is your final warning. 3, 2, 1.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. So, spoiler territory. I will... what was I going to say? I totally forgot what I was going to say. Oh, so let's talk about the villain, who actually shows up, like, directly in, like, the first minute of the movie, I think, or, like, the first couple minutes of the movie.
Somewhere in there.
Which is, is it Delilah?
Dolores.
Dolores. That's where my criticism comes in, as a very weak character. There was a really funny backstory that came from it. There was a spicy scene in this movie, in Shadow, but there was a spicy scene in this movie, and I'm like, is this PG again? Oh my gosh. But she kind of fell flat for me, but I did appreciate that she's not the actual villain of the movie. She's more of, like, the side villain.
Well, I actually don't have a problem with Dolores. What you get into with sequels like this, of these long-awaited things, especially when what was technically the big bad in your original movie turned out to be, like, the cult favorite, they didn't exactly turn him into an anti-hero.
They kept him gross.
They kept him gross.
Oh, was he gross in this movie?
I have a bone to pick with people who are like, Beetlejuice and Lydia forever, but I'm going to put a pin in that because I think you all have other issues you need to talk about. But I feel like Dolores was fine. She was, I think, a great red herring for what was going to become the big central conflict, or the big nail-biter moment. She was still there. She was still causing a problem. It was fun to see Beetlejuice running from something.
It is funny to see that. I don't mean to cut you off, but the one major thing I had with Dolores, and it is I don't know if it was a direction thing or what, but when she soul sucks, she doesn't, like, suck in. She literally just sits there and looks like she's waiting halfway for a kiss that's not coming, and it's so awkward and weird. She's like...
I think it's supposed to look like an almost kiss, and I think it looked like that with Bob in particular, because he's Bob.
I loved Bob.
So
why would you make me love this weird side character and then kill him off? That's really sad.
Because that's what they want to do. On that note, though, with the way they killed people in the afterlife, I thought it was appropriately grotesque, and I loved it, and my gross little inside child thought it was delightful.
The effects in this movie were really good.
Yeah.
Like, the practical effects, like, yes, they're goofy and cartoon looking, but they were also, like, they were good. They held up really well, I thought.
It kind of gave me a feeling about, like, when I was a kid and I saw the first Beetlejuice and the Maitlands were deforming themselves.
Yes, it looked like that.
It's very specific type of horror that is kind of funny, but it's also kind of a like, it takes you aback just for a second, and I think they hit that balance right on the head with a lot of the scenes they did here. And it was just a lot of fun. Yeah.
I did call the big bad. I was like, oh, he's dead. The second they were in the tree together and he was I'm like, he's dead. They're all dead. I'm calling it right now.
Well, the minute I saw her smack her head, and then she looks up and sees a guy in the treehouse, I'm like, oh, that's a ghost.
Yep.
Because earlier in the movie...
But I'm okay with that.
No, I'm not complaining about it.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that.
It wasn't telegraphed. Mm-mm. She didn't go, oh my god, my head, and she didn't complain about it.
I'm just saying we're good.
Yeah. And then when they're up in his room, and she's like, oh, do you troll eBay? And he goes, ah. And she's like, there's a lot of 90s, and we didn't see mom and dad's faces. We're like, all right, so everyone's dead. And something's going on here.
The lights!
The lights keep changing.
It's because of movement. I think they're motion censored. Anyway.
They probably are. But it was a nice redirect. It wasn't super obvious. It wasn't hammy. And we all knew that Lydia's boyfriend was a piece of shit anyway, so that revelation was nothing but satisfying, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, I want to chop off his nasty little ponytail right away. I'm like, he's dumb. He's stupid. Get out of here. How are we going to get rid of him?
Yeah.
Catherine O'Hara is a fucking gem.
She's wonderful.
And I love her.
Yeah.
And she can just do whatever she wants to do forever. I love her. I also appreciate that they kept her hair color, too, because it's like she would have bright, bright hair color even at that age. I loved it.
Exactly, yeah. And like Lydia would have her spiky bangs. I mean, I could see her continuing to be this awkward, weird kid. You know, even throughout, like she said, selling out. She never seemed super comfortable with the idea of the TV show anyway.
I feel like the relationship between Delia and Lydia was really good in this movie and very realistic to their characters. Because obviously, like, she's her stepmom. And it was always very, like, how do they get when they get older? And they still had that same dynamic, and it was really nice.
Delia dying was very funny and sad.
You knew it was coming, but you're like, oh man, god damn it, Delia.
I saw her like out there, and she was with the asps, and then I was like, oh no.
As soon as she opened the jar and I saw they were CGI, I'm like, oh, she's gone.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny, but it's so Delia. Like, that would happen. And, okay, while we're talking about things, I want to talk about one of the ending scenes where we have this nice little montage of Lydia's life.
Oh my god!
And going about with Astrid. And I remember sitting there listening to the music, and I'm like, this music sounds very familiar.
It's very familiar.
Sequence seems overly saccharine for this movie. And, sure enough, it ended with a nightmare sequence of the Beetle baby being born, and it was, in fact, the music from the original Carrie.
Which we don't know anything about at all. Nothing like that is coming soon.
No, we wouldn't know anything about that movie at all. The lights, thank you, stranger.
Thank you, stranger, who's walking by and staring at us.
Yeah. Anyway.
Can we talk? The Beetle baby actually really freaked me out. I'm like, get away. I thought that would get you because he looked oddly doll-like. It looked oddly doll-like, oddly Chucky-inspired, which was always my fear growing up. But I was like, okay, we can handle this. But at the same time, I'm like, get that thing away from me. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, it felt very right to sit there and watch this movie and delight in every strange turn it took. And this is one of those moments where it becomes very apparent to me that I'm not necessarily a film critic. I just like what I like. And if you like the same things I like, you'll probably like this movie, especially if you're a big Beetlejuice fan. It felt right, and I had a really good time watching it in the theater.
I'm very, very glad that we went and saw it in the theater. Overall, it brought me so much joy. It really made me remember, like, sitting on the couch watching Beetlejuice as a kid on the TV. We were laughing hysterically in the theater. Like, it was overall just a very, very fun time. And you have to anybody who wants to be super critical, I don't think will enjoy this movie. But if you just want to have a fun time, enjoy the same silliness that does not necessarily make sense, like Willem Dafoe's character. We didn't even touch on Willem Dafoe. I love Willem Dafoe so much, and it was
so
just like,
good.
what are you doing here? It's so weird. Anyway,
It was so good.
It was a bonkers, fantastic like adventure for a couple hours, and
Right.
I loved every minute of it. Overall ratings. I am going to give this 8 out of 10 handbooks for the recently deceased.
That's good. I think I'll also go with an 8 out of 10. Maybe 9. Wait. I'll go with 9 out of 10 handbooks for the recently deceased. I just had a good time. I had a good time, and if you didn't like the original Beetlejuice, why are you seeing Beetlejuice anyway?
It's definitely a party movie for sure.
Oh yeah, it's a good party movie.
Such a good party movie.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the fact that I showed up at her house with the same makeup on, and we did not coordinate. We never coordinate. We need to start coordinating.
With the same palette, too.
The same
We
exact
have the
makeup
same
palette.
So,
Just a moment for the makeup. Make sure you're in there with the light. Yes, look, yes. This lighting doesn't do credit because I forgot my light.
That's okay.
Thank you, parking structure lighting.
Woo woo!
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Quick Car Cuts.
If there's anything you'd like to see us talk about or watch, let us know in the comments below.
And while you're down there, make sure you let us know what you're looking forward to seeing in the theater this Halloween season.
In the meantime, we're the ghostesses with the mostesses, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
So does that mean that the trilogy, or the trequel, if that we call it a trequel?
A trequel.
A trequel? Anyway, does that mean that the trequel has to be called Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice?